Hi guys, Athena's here, and with cold and flu season, really we're kind of in the thick of it, and I wanted to show you guys how to make a cherry bark cough syrup. And this is from the bark of the cherry tree. And no, it doesn't taste like cherry, but it is the precursor to all of the cherry cough drops and cherry cough medicines and syrups that we, became accustomed to as kids. And actually, it all came from this cherry bark plant to make this syrup. And the reason this has been a great cough syrup for, oh my God, generations is because in the cherry bark, there are the volatile oils that help with that spasmodic cough. And the cough I'm talking about is the one that keeps you up at night, the one that you have to kind of sit up to sleep, and you're in the middle of cold and flu, and you're like, if I could just get a good night's sleep, my gosh, I know I could feel like $1,000,000, but that dry, spasmic cough keeps you up. Now, cherry bark has been around for centuries, and like I said, precursor to all the cherry flavored cough drops and cherry flavored syrups that you have probably encountered in the last 50 years. They don't have cherry bark in them. They're cherry flavored. See how we go from like what the real plant does to a variation, get you psychologically used to that cherry flavor is somehow doing something for you, and it's not. It's you have to use the actual plant. But I want to show you the actual plant. I have a cinnamon stick in here. The actual plant, this is a bark, and it is like heavy duty dense. And so if you have my workbook, and if you need to get the workbook, you can go to my site, athenas-body.com. Soon we'll have that on Amazon as well for you, but you can just get it off of my site. And if you are following along with the workbook, we are on page 17, 18, 19, 20. Those are the pages that we're operating off of for you to do a decoction. We're looking at teas and decoctions. And we're going to make a decoction out of this. Look at this bark. And I'm going to add a cinnamon stick because not only this smells so good in the house when you cook it, but the cinnamon is also warming to the chest. And I find that it also like heats it up, brings the blood flow to the chest, and oxygenates the chest and all of the infection. And infection doesn't live well when you bring the oxygen, it kills it. So we're gonna go back to some like old school stuff, and I'm gonna show you how to make it. I think this is so easy, you guys. Sorry you can't see me through the whole thing, but I want you to also see what I'm doing here. And so we're gonna take, I have a cup here. This is just a cup of cherry bark. If you live in colder climate and someone's cutting back their cherry tree, ask them, like, can I have some of the branches and cut that up into, I don't know, small chunks if you can. And I'm adding cinnamon. You can add clove, you can add all kinds of amazing stuff, but I'm just gonna keep it simple for you guys. So a cup of this cherry bark, there's a cinnamon stick in here. It's irrelevant, you don't have to have that. And I'm gonna put that in my pan. Now, I had a cup of that. I'm going to do 2 cups of some good filtered water. If you were in a situation where you didn't have filtered water, any water will do, because you're gonna cook this. So we're gonna go ahead and turn on our stove. this is going to come to a boil. And if you look at my teas and decoction area for elderberry syrup, I say this is a cough syrup, and I use the term loosely because here's a finished product of that, okay? And it's not that thick, okay? Not like the syrups that maybe you're used to that are prepackaged. Now you can add more honey to this. You can thicken this up, but it's gonna become very, very sweet. Honey, date syrup, okay, if you're vegan, but we don't want this like too thick. And also I want to remind you that with this finished product, you could do a candy recipe and turn this into an amazing cough drop. Amazing like throat lozenge, cough drop, homemade, just off of what you pull from this plant. So, oh my God, there's so many amazing things you can do. So back to the workbook, we're working off of pages 17, 18, 19, and 20. We're gonna go ahead and cook this up and we're gonna time it. So in the workbook, I talk about that to do a syrup like this and a decoction, that you need to cook it around 20 minutes. For this one, I cook it because the stems of all this woody stuff, I boil it actually for 10. And make a note in your notebook of this. If you have the workbook, I cook it for about 10 and then cover it and steep it for another 20. So about that 30-minute decoction, that's what we're looking at. If you didn't follow this exactly, you still made an incredible medicine, and I don't want you to feel freaked out. But some people like to have very specific instructions. And to me, you want to bring this to a boil for about 10 minutes. Then you're going to cover it and let it steep for another 20. Now, there are some views on this that if you overcook it, you've overcooked the bark and you've cooked out the volatile oils, you've cooked out the nutrition, like overcooking a vegetable, basically. But I have to tell you, I've tried everyone else's recipes, and I'm gonna let you know this. This needs 10 minutes of a high boil to break the bonds of something so dense and woody, and then another 20 to just steep, and we'll turn the heat off and just let it steep. And really, and see, this is already boiling. So I'm gonna cover it. This is gonna do 10 minutes of a boil. Then I'm gonna let it steep for another 20. And I'm just gonna allow the heat, which is our chemical way of getting this. Chemical seems like a bad word, but it's a chemical reaction that we're looking for. So we're gonna pull all of the strength, the energy, and the volatile oils out of the plant, and we're gonna turn it into something else. We're gonna turn it into a syrup. Like I said, I use the term loosely. So if you have my workbook, you're gonna see on the decoctions, willow bark, elderberry, and I have my elderberry syrup recipe, and that, because of the sugars, really does become more thick and syrupy. Burdock root, ginseng root, cherry bark, which we're using today, and citrus peels. This is really about using what you have access to. You can make an amazing syrup, cough syrup, cold and flu syrup. This one I like. Let's get back to the spasmodic cough. Oh my gosh. So everyone who is sitting up at night and can't lay your head down because that cough and your chest starts to have these spasms that you can't control, cherry bark is amazing. This is also amazing for an asthma attack. Don't have to be sick to take this. And I also have done research. This is really great for gout and other things. So, I mean, it behooves you to go ahead and, if you want to make the syrup, make the syrup. I had a finished syrup that was jarred up. And quite frankly, in my house, we already used it all. We had all the people with the flu sitting up with the spasmodic cough. And the only thing that relieved it was this syrup, this decoction, okay? That's all you've done here is a decoction. So if you have the book, you're going to understand teas, decoctions, and how to get into more advanced medicine. So, okay, so we've let this boil for a while. I'm probably going to just turn it off and let it sit. So as we let it sit, the other thing you're going to add is a good cup of wild honey. Now, if you don't have your raw wild honey, you just have some sort of honey or syrup in your house, use it. Use it. You haven't ruined anything. You're still going to make a syrup. You're still going to complete a decoction. I don't want you to feel like that you've screwed anything up if you don't have everything that you need in the cupboard. All you're doing is sweetening it, thickening it up. It doesn't really offer that much. It's not beneficial that much. But what you did was you drew out what you needed out of that plant, which is the cherry bark. And now you're going to sweeten it and make it more easy to the taste, easier to take down. And I'll tell you, in my house, that this calmed down that cough and provided a full night's sleep. If you don't get a full night's sleep, you just don't get better. That's kind of the evil thing with all the flu and everything, is that you're up sneezing, coughing. That dry, spasmodic cough keeps you from really healing up, and you know it. You know it. You're like, if I could just sleep, I know I'd feel better. Kind of tricky. So this kind of takes that out of there. This has a lot of other benefits, but for today, we're just looking at upper respiratory cough, kind of that pneumonia cough, upper respiratory infection from flu cough. And also asthmatics do very well with this. So something to kind of pay attention to. I put the cinnamon in. I like the chest to warm up a little bit. It increases the blood flow, like I said, and that carries oxygen, and oxygen kills disease. It kills infection. So the more that you can bring that warmth in there, okay, we're not cooling down fever at this point. We're bringing warmth to the area that is ill with some really great ingredients from our cherry bark. And we're creating something that has some shelf life. This will have a shelf life easily 3 months. It'll take you through the whole season. And like I said, we already used a whole batch of this up before I could even make this video. So you won't be sorry if you have a batch of this made up in the fridge and ready to go. I have a feeling you may use it this season. So as we are cooking this is steeping. We're going to get a nice 20, 30 minutes. If you look at teas and decoctions, it's going to tell you that's about the time that you need. And then it comes into a thicker syrup. You're going to add 1 cup of your raw honey. Oh my gosh, look at this, okay? That's what's going to give you that syrupy, okay, consistency to your cough medicine. And so whatever syrup, honey you have, use it. Don't be afraid to use it. You've not screwed anything up. If you get the timing off, you're like, is it 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes? You've still created a great medicine No reason to get nervous about it. And I have done some research. Some is like you should not boil it at all and just let it steep for 30 minutes. Some is boil it the whole time. And what I have found is 10 minutes of boiling, let it steep for 20. That will bring out the oils that you need in that barky, dense, like heavy material, because it's not leaves, okay? That releases its energy very easily. This is dense stuff. And so we haven't overworked it, we haven't overcooked it, and yet now, you know, we let 20 minutes for it to steep. Deep decoction. If you'd like to know more about teas and decoctions, check me out at athenas-body.com. Check out this workbook too, because we can always make notes in this workbook and to follow along. And so this is still going to steep. It's going to come out like this. We're going to strain it, right? And then we're going to add our honey, and we're going to have an amazing syrup. And like I said, it may not be that thick, and you can add a lot more honey or date syrup or whatever you choose to use to make it thick. But making it thick doesn't actually make it better. It just makes it sweeter and easier to stick to the spoon to administer it. If yours didn't come out that thick, you're fine. Still administer it. Do it. And if you have neighbors and you're in cold country and they have cherry trees and they're trimming stuff back, probably not right now, but when they do, ask them, say, can I have a branch off of that? And use it. Use whatever is available to you. And I love you, and I hope that this helps. And this spasmodic cough, keeping everybody awake at night, get rid of it. Make your own cough syrup. Get rid of it. We have, and I'm telling you, it works. It works without all the alcohols and the drugs. So you decide, a few minutes. This is going to be done soon, and I think you can do this. I definitely think you can. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.